Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thanks for holding this important hearing. Admiral Papp, good to see you. I'm looking at the FY 2011 budget for the Coast Guard, and I see that there's a 3.3 proposed decrease, about $75 million. And do you have any idea what that means as far as how you're going to realize those budget cuts? And I know also that there's a GAO report that the FY 2011 budget cites decreases in port funding and waterways and coastal security. It's a cut of about 6%. So I'm just trying to understand how we're going to make these cuts and how we're going to keep our ports safe in the process.
Yes, ma'am. Obviously, some very, very difficult decisions were made when putting together the 2011 budget. There were trade-offs made to continue the recapitalization of our infrastructure, those versatile and adaptable aircraft, boats, and ships that I talked about earlier, and to sustain some short-term reductions in other activities in order to pay for that. Where it manifests itself probably most visibly for this particular hearing are the 5 maritime safety and security teams that were reduced in that budget. I've done a lot of talking about the versatile and adaptable resources that we have. For instance, one of the MSSTs that was to be reduced is in the Port of New York. We have increased Station New York and Sector New York general purpose forces almost double over the last 8 years or so. As an example, Station New York used to have 45 people. They have 90 people there right now that can do daily missions within the Port of New York, whereas the MSST is a single focus security force. I love having them, but their utility in terms of providing day-to-day security was not as much as the stations that were there. So when confronted with the choices of how do we balance our forces to provide the services to our country, we stuck with the versatile, adaptable general forces to sustain them as much as we could while recapitalizing some of those ships, boats, and planes that we so desperately need as well.
I'm not sure I followed all of that, but I also want to ask you, because in this line of obviously making ends meet, and obviously ports are a key part of our security regime, I had asked Secretary Napolitano about the semi-submersible vessels and what we were doing to prepare. And I know that there has been recently a submersible vessel that was recently discovered in Ecuador. So this whole issue of their involvement in drug trafficking. So what are the plans to fully combat these submersibles?
Well, ma'am, the first thing is good intelligence. We need to cooperate with the countries of South and Central America, particularly our friends in Colombia, who have really done a complete turnaround down there and have assisted us and really been strong partners in this drug war. We work the intelligence side very hard through many methods so that we can detect these semi-submersibles as they're leaving. If we don't know when they're leaving, then it makes the equation even much more difficult because of their profile. With the vast expanses in both the Eastern Pacific and in the Caribbean, they're very difficult to detect. We have marine aviation patrols out there. We work with the Navy, and we work with other Central and South American countries as well to try and detect them. And then, of course, we have our own patrol vessels down there.
And what about small vessel threats? That I know there was a pilot program that both Seattle and San Diego participated in as it related to nuclear detection for small vessels. Is that, I think the Coast Guard was involved in that. And do you think that we need to expand that program? Are we going to expand that program? To major port areas? We,
as mentioned earlier, the small vessel threat is one that deeply concerns me just based upon the magnitude, the sheer numbers of recreational boaters and fishing boats that are out there. As I talked about before, we perceived all of them as a threat at one time, and what we've done now is actually see them as a force multiplier. So outreach through education, some of the programs that we've had out in the 13th Coast Guard District and our America Waterways Watch program have been very beneficial to us in terms of bringing that recreational and fishing boat public in to act as additional sensors for us on the water to provide us maritime domain awareness.
So do you think the program's going to expand, or?
Well, it's certainly one that I want to sustain. Right now, it's a very low-cost project for us, the America's Waterways Watch program. It's slightly in excess of $1 million, which is basically to provide and conduct outreach, both through active duty Coast Guard people and our Coast Guard auxiliary. That's certainly a program that we could expand upon, and then we're also, we have our small vessel security strategy that is on its way, that's currently under review by the Secretary.
Okay, that's more what I was referring to. So I'll look forward to seeing that plan and what you're going to do about small vessel detection.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.